Hey, what's up folks, how's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well, and what you're looking at are two of the best wireless gaming mice that are currently available. We're specifically talking about the Logitech G305 and the Corsair Harpoon RGB wireless. Both offer sub 1 millisecond or 1000 hertz report rate in terms of their data transmission, so they should deliver wired performance in a wireless package. Logitech is using their Lightspeed technology for this, and Corsair is using their new Slipstream technology, which they just came out with in 2019. Now, both are under $50 in terms of MSRP, so they're fairly affordable in terms of most means. And we're going to talk about the advantage that each mouse presents and hopefully give you a better understanding and idea on how they compare against each other. Now, in terms of sensor technology, Logitech is using their Hero sensor on the G305, which is a sensor that they're using for essentially most of their gaming mice that are offered right now. So it's a fantastic, fairly versatile sensor. The resolution's all the way down to 200 all the way up to 12,000 DPI or CPI. There's zero acceleration, smoothing, or filtering. Now, I've been using the G305 for several months, pretty much when it was first launched, and it's fairly good in terms of tracking performance on optimal surfaces like most mouse pads, but on suboptimal surfaces with irregular patterns like this carbon fiber texture that I'm using right now, the mouse cursor tends to skip a little bit, and the tracking performance is definitely not as good as what we find on the Corsair Harpoon wireless, which is using a very established PMW3325 sensor with solid optics. The resolution's up to 10,000 DPI, so not as high as the Logitech, but it absolutely doesn't matter. Now, interestingly, I didn't come across this problem on the higher end Logitech gaming mice. One of the best ones is the new Wireless Pro mouse that they just launched a few months back, and that mouse in pretty much every scenario is fantastic. Now, this could mean that the G305's internal processor or optics are kind of subpar compared to the higher end gaming mice out there, but ultimately, as long as you're using a decent mouse pad or even a nice flat surface on your desktop, you should be fine for the most part. Now, in terms of the tracking accuracy and precision, I've been developing a couple of different tests for the past couple of weeks, and one thing that I came up with is this kind of turntable test where we mount the mouse upside down and we simply draw a long diagonal line. Typically, mice are pretty good on the XY axis specifically, but in the combination is going to tax them a little bit further, and ideally we want the straightest diagonal line possible. So here are the results over here. Certainly this test is not completely scientific and I'm still kind of developing it, but you get kind of an idea in terms of how these two mice are drawing this diagonal line, and I wouldn't say one is more perfect than the other. They're both kind of very similar based on this perspective. You can see that we have a perfectly straight line as reference for you guys. So definitely not a big difference in terms of tracking, precision, and overall performance there. Now, in terms of the ergonomics themselves, with the AA battery installed, the G305 is slightly lighter based on our scale measurements. We got about 96 grams versus the Corsair Harpoon wireless came out about 101 grams. The Harpoon wireless, in terms of most things, feels a little bit more premium in terms of build materials. The Logitech is mostly polycarbonate plastics and it feels a little bit cheaper. We have nice premium rubber side grips on the Corsair. And in terms of durability, the Corsair's left-right click buttons are rated up to 50 million clicks versus you're looking at 10 million on the G305. Now you can see that the shape on both mice are very distinct from each other. We have a taller apex point on the Corsair, and you're also going to have a raised wrist position since this is more of a claw or fingers tip style mouse. Now, in terms of the comfort factor, I'm definitely more of a fan of the design on the G305. It has a slightly lower center of mass. The grip is also wider and longer, so you can more comfortably palm it. So it's definitely better for larger hands, in my opinion. And the overall raised wrist position and the claw style grip that you're going to have to use with the Corsair Harpoon wireless is going to cause some tendonitis issues that I already have to kind of flare up. So comfortability factor wise and ergonomics wise, for me personally, I definitely like the Logitech better than the Corsair. Now, moving on, in terms of the battery life, since the G305 is a very basic mouse, it has no fancy RGB lighting, just a single status indicator light at the top of the mouse for your DPI and profile settings, and it's using a standard AA battery inside. You're going to get about 250 hours of usage, which is awesome. Now, the Corsair actually has a built-in 850 milliamp mAh lithium polymer battery, and there's a couple of different settings for the mouse. You can use it in the high-speed 2.4 gigahertz slipstream mode, which is going to give you about 30 hours with the lighting on, about 45 hours with it off. In Bluetooth mode, it's a little bit more power efficient. It's not as fast in terms of the data transfer, but for general browsing, it's pretty good. So you're looking at 40 hours with the light and about 60 hours with the lights off. And of course, you could still use the wired mode, which will charge your battery while you're using the mouse, which is pretty cool. Now, in terms of comparing the Lightspeed technology on Logitech side versus Corsair Slipstream, I really can't tell the difference, especially when you have the transmitters fairly close to the mice themselves. Now, in terms of long distances, I did find that the 305 broke up the signal faster than the Corsair did. So past about 30 to 40 feet, you're going to run into some issues there. But most people are sub 15 feet between the mouse and the transmitter, so that's definitely not a problem. And I think based on my experience of playing a couple hours of CSGO, I think Lightspeed on the Logitech side and Slipstream offer pretty much the same advantage, and really no difference between the wireless mode and what you're going to find with a high-end wired gaming mouse. And that's why you're seeing even pros transition from wired to wireless in order to eliminate clutter, to streamline their interface, and also you don't have any of the caveats of the poor battery performance of the previous generation wireless technology. And plus, the data rate is at this point imperceivable for most users out there. But at this point, if we were to sum up everything, I think for me personally, I would still go with the G305, mostly because of the comfortability factor. I'm just not going to be comfortable using the Harpoon wireless in terms of its specific shape that it has right now for more than 2 to 3 hours of usage, versus I'd be using the 305 for 8 hours a day, no problem, days upon days, and no issues with tendonitis or anything like that. So you definitely want to find the mouse that's most comfortable for you. Both are going to be great in terms of traveling, both are great in terms of gaming performance, and they come at a pretty competitive price tag, so definitely check them out. I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of which mouse you guys prefer. If you're in the market for a new wireless gaming mice, definitely check these two out. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and make sure you have notifications turned on so that way you can get our videos once they become available to you. Thanks again. We'll see you later.